I need to talk about Jim Carrey with someone because what the F is this? If you look at it closely, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, all completely different. So there's also this clip of Jim Carrey. It's all over TikTok. If you search for it, you can find it. He was at the Caesar Awards in France where he accepted an award. But it's this interview after that is so strange. The way he is talking and his mannerisms, it just doesn't feel like him. When he won the award, he did his entire acceptance speech in French. So he's kind of talking about that and how daunting it was, but he also just stops in his tracks and says, "I'm dead." He also makes another comment saying that the face that he's wearing is his funny face. And I know you're gonna say I'm fucking daft, and I know you're gonna tell me stop, but Jim Carrey was always very vocal about the dark shit that was going on in Hollywood and elsewhere. He's spoken before about distractions that are meant to keep our mind off of things as audiences, keep us happy, keep us docile while other dark shit is going on. He's spoken about the trafficking of children before, spoken out saying this is something that should not be happening. Again, call me fucking crazy, but it's almost like he was trying to warn everybody. All of those fucking Epstein files have been dropped now. It's all there for everyone to see. And who is this? Because this does not feel like Jim Carrey at all. This feels dark and sinister and creepy. If you watch the clip, you can't tell me that it's not unsettling. When you compare it to other interviews he's done or just the way he speaks, it feels like a completely different person. I know I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole here, I already am, but something's off. Isn't something off? Please watch the clip. Let me know what you think.
You want to know something else that no left-wing media is talking about? This individual. Stacey Marie Lofton, also known as Barry Lofton, the first openly transgender person who got elected into a U.S. state legislature position because Mr. Barry had certain tendencies and attractions towards, 3 to 5-year-olds at a daycare. Yeah, you heard that right, daycare. Because he pleaded guilty in a federal court for 3 counts of sexual exploitation of children. And their prosecutors reported that the case involved explicit images taken at a Massachusetts daycare, with their victims reportedly being as young as 3 to 5 years old. And believe me when I say there is only one place that comes to mind where individuals like that belong.
This lady said in her dream, and she thinks it wasn't even a dream, that the thing that was sleeping next to her was taking shape and taking form of her husband. This woman and her husband went to the Appalachian Mountains for a VRBO trip, Verbo, and they got there Saturday and left Sunday morning at 6 a.m. in their pajamas. When they got there, first of all, before they got there, they were feeling all right. When they got there, they got sick. She started having burning of the eyes and he had a headache. Then they decided to go to the store to get some Claritin. They thought it was allergies. Maybe there was something in the house. They also got a lint roller because they saw animal fur on the furniture. Got back to the house. Well, first of all, when they got to the store, they felt better. Got back to the house, they felt sick again. So ordered pizza, whatever. They went to bed. This woman said when she went to bed, she didn't even think it was a dream. She saw something laying next to her in her husband's spot that looked like it was decomposing. Eyes sunken in, face decomposing, but it slowly started to take shape of the form of her husband. And then what's crazy is her husband had the same exact dream that she had. So she gets up out her sleep, goes to the bathroom like 2 or 3 in the morning. Husband's laying there pretending like he's asleep because he's just trying to ignore what the hell's going on. And he ends up feeling something cold touch his foot. Like somebody took their hand and pushed his foot. He thought it was her, but it couldn't have been her because she was in the bathroom. So when she came out, he was like, "Let's pray. We need to pray at this point because something's not right." And she was like, "Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Let's pray." So they prayed. Nothing happened. In fact, she said it just felt like they couldn't even breathe. She said it felt like they couldn't breathe. So long story short, they started hearing something that sounded like it was running around the Verbo. I think it's called Verbo. At that point, they were like, "Nope, we're not taking no showers. We're not getting no breakfast. We going home. We going home." I love them Appalachian videos. I love them. I'm going to find them every time. Rub my feet together and watch me a good one tonight.
Let's read another scary Reddit story. Never hike in Arizona. I was in my beat-up 4-door pickup truck driving down the long, winding red dirt with all of the beautiful red rock on each side. I drove for another couple of hours, and I finally arrived at the dirt parking lot. I stepped out right on a long skid mark towards the exit. I looked at the amazing red and yellow sunset. I unloaded my backpack and started on my 2-day hike. I got 20 minutes in, and I saw the gleaming stars in the black soup of the night. so I rushed to put up my tent and I got it set up in record-breaking time. Then I slipped in and started my alarm for first daylight. I could not keep my eyes closed for longer than a minute because of the constant yapping of the coyotes, but I finally fell asleep. I shot awake at the sound of my alarm, then it immediately went quiet. No coyotes, no crickets. I checked my phone. It's dead. What? I whispered to myself. Then it clicked in my head. The alarm sound was coming from outside. I felt the adrenaline coursing through my body. The freaking alarm was coming from outside of my tent. I reached in my bag and grabbed my knife, clutching it in my hand. Then I grabbed my phone and slowly started unzipping my tent, the sound shattering the night. As soon as I got up, I ran as fast as I could straight for my car, my legs pounding on the ground, moving faster than they ever have. I hear footsteps just feet behind me, and I realized my keys were in the right wheel well of my car. I knew I could not get to my car in time, so I veered left and scrambled up the red rock, hoping that whatever was following me could not climb. I felt a hot pain down my leg as I got halfway up. When I got to the top, I heard it trying to climb, but it couldn't. I looked at my leg, 3 long gashes from what looked like claws. I looked at my surroundings. It was flat level plateau drop-offs on each side. I could see the path to my car. So building up all the courage I could, I picked up the biggest rock I could and threw it down where I could hear the noises coming from. Then I heard an ear-piercing screech. I then ran and climbed down on the side closest to the path, slamming my head on the rock. Then bright lights started flashing through my head. I fell to the ground, dropping my knife, and I could feel hot tears rolling down my face. I forced myself to my feet, then started running to my car, and as I ran, my legs started throbbing. I could barely see the edge of the parking lot through the tears. Then I heard those horrible, dreadful footsteps behind me again. I grabbed my keys, gashing my hand on the rusty wheel well, hit the button to unlock my car, jumped in, jammed my keys in the ignition, slammed my foot on the gas, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I could make out the black figure. It was tall, lanky, and had weird things protruding from its back. It had kinks all over its arms and legs and giant claws on each hand. So yeah, never hike in Arizona. I think we can all agree that was terrifying. And that's also one of the stories that's going to be on my new podcast episode that comes out tomorrow. So make sure that you're following me on Spotify so you don't miss the episode.
This episode infuriated me. If you've not seen it, you need to. It basically starts in Cambridge, where 32-year-old David is shot execution style in his own house. Police race over there, and so does his best mate and his uncle. And when his uncle hears that his nephew has been killed, he's like, oh my god, I need to let my brother know. That's his son. He's gonna be devastated. Except he's ringing his brother and ringing him, and he doesn't answer. Because he's been shot dead too. So police are like, oh my god, 2 men from the same family have both been shot execution style in their own home. We're not sure if the rest of the family is safe. So they were like, you guys need to get to the police station now. Don't ask any questions. Don't waste any time. Like, imagine processing that you've just lost 2 of your family members and now your life might be in danger as well. Anyway, it turns out that the guy that had been killed initially, Josh Dunmore, was in a huge custody battle with his ex and her new bloke. Can I just say, by the way, that Josh seemed like such an amazing dad. Like, there are so many dads on this earth that just don't care about their kids. Josh was not one of those. He really, really adored his son. And so did his dad, the child's granddad. Like, this was absolutely devastating. So it turned out his ex's dad was the murderer. And if you've watched it, you'll know how absolutely infuriating this man is. Like, just how casual he is about everything. It's absolutely sickening to me that you do that to your own grandson. Like, even if you hate the 2 guys that you've killed, are you not thinking about your grandson in all of this? It turned out this whole feud was over the ex-partner Samantha and her new partner wanting to bugger off to America with the kid. And Josh was like, no, you can't just take my child halfway across the world away from me. And Samantha kept ranting to her dad through this whole custody battle via text, saying the most unhinged things. Saying she wished Josh was dead, joking about running him over, even saying things to her dad about like being a sniper on the roof. Her dad was texting back some really ominous messages like, this is going to be over over soon and like, trust me, I'll end it. Samantha even sent via text to her dad the address of Josh and his dad and photos of Josh's front door. Why were you sending that, Samantha? Anyway, Stephen Alderton, the killer, ended up getting convicted of murder, but Samantha and her new guy were just free. They were just able to start their new life in America. I think it's absolutely wild. They basically said that there was not enough evidence to convict them of being involved in planning the murder. The only tiny saving grace and the thing that stopped me smashing up my actual TV was the fact that the grandma, Josh's mum, ended up getting sole custody of that little boy. I think if they hadn't included that tiny bit of good news at the end, I would have spontaneously combusted.
I'm going to tell you all a really crazy story about an experience I had at DIA, Denver International Airport. And this is just like a forewarning. If you're someone who travels through DIA or any airport alone, listen up, be aware of your surroundings. It was one of the scariest things in my life. A lot of my friends and family know about this story, but figured it's time to share it on the internet. This was about 2 years ago. I was home visiting family for the weekend and I was traveling solo. So I had a red-eye flight leaving out of Denver going to Tampa on a Sunday evening. I got dropped off at DIA around 11ish p.m. And all was fine. Airport was empty. And if you ever fly at night, like, you know, the airport at that time is desolate. There's no one there. No stores are open. No restaurants are open. There might be like a Hudson News open where you can get a candy bar. Like, that's it. There's no one there. There's no extra employees there. It's the bare minimum, okay? And DIA is no exception to that. So I go to what I think my gate is. It turns out my gate had changed and I didn't know. So I was sitting at an empty gate. I thought that was a little weird, but I still had like 2 hours before my flight. So I was like, oh, I'm probably just really early. I was sitting there, I had one AirPod in, and I was sitting in the seats. I was at the gate, sitting in the seats closest to the window because I was watching all the airplanes take off. I had one AirPod in, I was watching TikToks, listening to podcasts, whatever. Before you know it, a gentleman comes up and he stands directly in front of me and asks where I'm traveling to. Within 30 seconds, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, he pulls out a cigar and lights it in the airport, and suddenly I'm like, red flags everywhere go up around me. I'm like, who does that? Like, I've never seen anything like that. This guy like clearly didn't care about anything. And he begins to ask me, he goes, where are you traveling to? And again, my guard's up now. So I'm like, oh, I'm not giving this guy any information. And I'm starting to scan my surroundings, like who's around me, what's around. And I tell him, oh, I'm just traveling home. He goes, where's home? I go, oh, a different state. He goes, what state? And I go, I don't feel comfortable sharing that information. I hope you understand. Like, I don't tell strangers where I live. And he goes, what were you doing in Denver? And I go, visiting family. And he's like, okay, so where are you going? And I said, home. And now I'm getting really nervous. Now all of a sudden another person comes in, another man, and sits 2 seats away from me. Again, we are the only people at this gate. There's not a person as far as you can see. And the guy that comes over and sits next to us goes, my friend was asking you where you're traveling to. And I go, and I told him, I'm not saying anything. Now I'm starting to get like choked up, like I can barely talk because I'm so nervous. Within 30 seconds of that, I kind of blacked out. During this period, a woman comes up behind me. So I am now trapped. There's a person right here, and this woman like back here. So they're all around me. The guy's still smoking a cigar, mind you. No one's around for as long as you can see. I was flying Frontier, so if you're familiar with the Denver airport, Frontier's, it's like whole own thing. This was before Frontier's new terminal, but even before that, Frontier's so far at the end of the airport, like you're truly so far away from everything. So the girl comes up behind me. My friend asked you where you're traveling to. Says it just like that. They're getting angry with me. And I said, I'm not saying anything. I start to pack my stuff up. They're like, why are you so nervous? Where are you going? What are you doing? Answer our question. The guy next to me, aren't you going to answer my friend? It's not nice to not answer him. I'm freaked out at this point. I'm like, something nefarious has happened. Like, this is very, very, very bad. I'm packing all my stuff up. I'm taking my headphones out. I have like 911 on speed dial at this point. Like, I have it typed in my phone. I'm texting my mom and dad. Something is going on at the airport. I'm trying to call my husband. It's 1 a.m. in Florida, now 2 a.m. in Florida, so he's not answering. I'm freaking out. I'm sending voice memos to my best friend of what's happening. And I'm just like, hey, around these people, I feel uncomfortable. I'm at DIA. This is what terminal I'm at. They could hear me saying all this. I didn't care. I'm like, if something happens to me, I want people to know exactly where I'm at. I get up and I start walking away, and the girl grabs my arm and she goes, I need you to come to the bathroom with me. And I said, I'm not going to do that. And she goes, please, I really need your help in the bathroom. We're women. We help each other. And I said, I don't feel comfortable doing that. She was insisting I go to the bathroom with her, has my arm grabbed. I said, get off of me, don't touch me. They're all following me, wrapped around me. They're like, ma'am, why don't you just answer where you're going? It's not nice to ignore us. They're being so weird. I rip out of her arm and I sprint down the airport. I went to Frontier. I told them what happened. They kept me safe. They got an air marshal involved. It was this whole thing. And they're like, you did the right thing. This seems like you were being targeted. They were able to look up cameras where these people had been following me since basically the second I entered the airport, which is terrifying. I don't know how they did it. I don't know if they had like, you know, fake plane tickets. I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I don't remember. I genuinely blacked out, but I know that like an air marshal ended up getting involved. It was this whole thing. It was terrifying. And the people at DA, they were like, of course, like we can't confirm what was going on, but you were being followed. And that's enough reason to suspect that something fishy was happening. So be aware of your surroundings, all that to say, especially if you're traveling alone, be safe. And I know that like for myself personally, I've now made a rule, no traveling alone at nighttime. So yeah, just stay safe out there.
You can see on his face where she tried to fight back. It was May 2016 in West Hollywood. Probably goes without saying that the area is home to so many rich, successful, famous, and beautiful people. And that's honestly what you would have thought if you glanced over at this couple and saw them dining at a restaurant. Ayanna Kastan and Blake Leibel looked like a match made in heaven. Ayanna was originally from Ukraine, and she was incredibly intelligent as well as being stunning. She moved to the US a couple of years earlier to work as a model, and she was incredibly successful at this. It suddenly felt like everything was falling into place for her when she met Blake. He was a graphic novelist. He appeared to be successful because he was absolutely rolling in money. He came from a very, very rich family. So on the surface, it looked like he was a real catch and they were a perfect match. And it was almost like the timing seemed perfect because he'd suddenly broken up with his pregnant wife Amanda out of the blue, leaving him free to get to know Ayanna. Was he really a good guy if he could just abandon his pregnant ex like that? Regardless, he wasted absolutely no time, and it felt like as soon as he clicked his fingers, he was engaged to Ayanna. And then she almost immediately got pregnant. Now, she was set to be the most amazing mum. She had a really caring, lovely, maternal vibe about her. In May 2016, she gave birth to a beautiful baby daughter, Diana. And obviously, as it should, all of her attention was now on her new arrival. She just wanted to protect this little baby and make sure she was okay. And Blake couldn't handle it. His fragile ego just couldn't take not being the center of attention anymore. And when Ayanna stopped answering her phone one day, her mum just had this gut feeling. She was like, this isn't like my daughter. Why is she not responding to me? She rang the police and she was like, I really hope that I'm overreacting here, but could you just possibly go around and do a welfare check? Because I really just don't feel like this is normal behavior for her. So they did. And I honestly don't think the police that attended will ever get over what they saw. Massive trigger warning here if anybody is squeamish. Inside of the apartment, Blake had actually barricaded himself in with his partner, but it was too late to save her. When she was found, she was completely disfigured. Most of her body parts were missing and her blood had been drained. Her scalp had been removed. And probably even more disturbing than that, the autopsy actually found that this had happened around 8 hours prior to her death. So she was alive during this torture. And one of the most cruel and unbelievable parts of this case, as if it wasn't cruel and unbelievable already, is the fact that Blake actually took a break during all of this to order Postmates. I don't know what you guys think, but that just seems like disgusting to me that this person is able to eat while being covered in his partner's blood. He actually put a note on the door demanding that the food was just left just outside the door. Now, can you imagine being that delivery driver afterwards and finding this out, like realizing what was going on behind those closed doors? Now, after this horrific scene was discovered, Blake was obviously arrested, but people realized they didn't even know the half of it. This this guy wasn't satisfied with originally going straight from his original pregnant partner straight to another woman. He was actually even cheating on Ayana with another woman. He was seeing this girl called Constance Abuka Furry, and she was living in another home that he owned. Well, his parents owned it. It was his parents' money, let's be honest. Please, baby Jesus, tell me how this guy was getting so many women. Anyway, it gets worse. There was an incident in 2016 where Constance actually accused him of SAing her, and there was enough evidence to have him arrested for this. And to make matters worse, Ayana had to bail him out of jail. This is probably the most rage I felt for a man in a long time doing one of these cases. Ayana's mum even said after, like, I knew he was a bad guy, he just was such a lot of red flags. He was constantly pressuring Ayana for S, even after she was recovering from the emergency C-section. It turned out his graphic novels had actually included some horrific, dark fantasies that I guess he wanted to make come true. He was finally sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And it really got me thinking. I did a podcast episode recently on the Camden Ripper on my podcast, The Born Investigation. And I feel like there was a theme in that investigation where, like, women just aren't believed. Police don't take reports of SA serious enough, and then these guys go on to do even more horrific crimes.
It's terrifying how someone completely vanishes without a trace and nobody, not your family, not police, not even the government, can find you. So one morning on June 13, 2001, 19-year-old Jason waved goodbye to his little brother as he walked out of his house and into his neighborhood to meet up with a coworker. His car had been stuck in a repair shop for the past few days, and his coworker, we'll call her Emma for story purposes, had agreed to pick him up since they were working the same shift anyways, so it just made sense. And the plan was pretty simple. Meet up at this parking lot at 11 a.m., drive to work together, do the job. Easy. But as Emma's sitting there in her car, waiting, expecting to see Jason walking towards her, there was weirdly no sign of him anywhere. And when she checks the clock to see the time, that's when she realizes, oh crap, it's already 11 a.m. But you see, Emma is a reasonable person, so she figures maybe he's running a few minutes late, so she decides to wait just a little bit longer. But as the time kept going by and there was still no sign of Jason anywhere, she just made a decision to leave the parking lot and drive to work herself before she was late too. But Emma still kind of felt worried a little bit, like Jason didn't even text her that he was going to be late, so just to make sure that everything was okay, she decided to leave Jason's house phone a really quick voice message, basically saying, hey, just wanted to let you know that Jason was late to meet me, so I went to work by myself. But when she got there, expecting to see him, Emma notices that Jason still wasn't there. So she thought, okay, well maybe he's just coming to work late, I don't know. But for her whole entire shift, Jason never made it to work. Now later that day, Jason's parents, Jim and Kelly, come home from their own jobs expecting to see both their sons in bed. But they immediately notice that Jason wasn't home yet. And so they're thinking, well, that's strange. His shift ended not too long ago. He should be home by now. And then they notice the voicemail from Emma. And when Kelly listens to it, when she hears that Jason never made it to the meeting spot that morning, her stomach drops. Because suddenly this isn't like a, oh, he's just running late. This is a, where the hell has our son been all day? Now Kelly starts to panic, and I mean really panic, because she knows Jason. She knows this isn't normal. He doesn't just disappear without telling anyone. He doesn't go MIA like this. Something is wrong. Something is very, very wrong. So she grabs the phone, ready to call the police right then and there, but then she remembers something that makes her blood run cold. Jason is 19 years old. He's legally an adult, and in most places when an adult goes missing, you have to wait 24 hours before you can even file a missing persons report. 24 hours. Can you imagine that? Like, can you imagine being a parent and not knowing if something is wrong with your child, not knowing where they are, not knowing if they're safe, not knowing if they're hurt or scared or hungry, and just sitting there in your house staring at the door, praying to God that he walks through it and he doesn't? Oh my God, I can't. When the next day comes and Jason still hadn't come home, Jim and Kelly knew that there was just no other choice than to officially report their son as missing. And you would think, you would hope that when these investigators hear about a 19-year-old kid who just vanished without a trace, they would immediately spring into action, right? You would think they start searching, looking for evidence of foul play, doing everything in their power to find this kid. But that's not what happens. Instead, the police basically shrug them off. They look at Jim and Kelly, these frantic, terrified parents, and say, look, Your son's an adult. He probably just ran away. It's what kids his age do. And then they do nothing. For 9 days, Jim and Kelly are begging for help and nothing is being done to find their son. 9 days of no search parties, no investigation, just this dismissive attitude of, he'll turn up eventually. So they keep going back to the police over and over again, pleading, please do something. Our son did not run away. I know this. And finally, after 10 excruciating days, the police agreed to start an investigation. So they began doing what they should have done from the very beginning. They talked to neighbors, asking if anyone saw anything unusual. They followed the exact path that Jason would have taken from his house all the way to the parking lot where he was supposed to meet up with Emma. They're searching for any shred of evidence, anything that might indicate some type of foul play, but the police found nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean zilch, zero, nada. No witnesses, no signs of struggle, no personal belongings dropped along the way. It's like Jason walked out of his house that morning and just evaporated into thin air. So the police dig deeper. They pull phone records. They check his bank account, looking for any activity that might tell them where he is or what happened. But again, nothing. His phone hasn't been used. His bank account hasn't been touched. It's complete radio silence. And that's when it sort of hit to the police that what if he didn't run away, but someone took him? And that right there changed everything. They immediately stopped treating this like a missing persons case and start treating it like a potential abduction. They're sharing any information to news outlets, newspapers. They're putting his name out there, describing what he was wearing the day that he left, what he looks like, anything that might jog someone's memory. Jim and Kelly even record this absolutely heartbreaking message that gets broadcasted to the public saying, Jason, please come home. We miss you so much. We have your car fixed and ready to go. But even with all of this, nothing ever came from it. Not an ounce of evidence leading to Jason's rescue has ever been found. And for 25 years, nobody in that neighborhood has ever come forward with any information about where he could be. But do you believe that? Do you believe that in an entire neighborhood where people are coming and going, not one person saw what happened to a 19-year-old kid? Because I don't buy it. That is all I have for today. I love y'all. Let me know what you think. Group hug.